I'm Diana Wentworth, and I'm so excited to be with you. I'm the co-founder of the Inside Edge Foundation for Education. It's been a forum for thought leaders and all kinds of people who are activists in the world where they meet and greet and expand who they are. And we've been recording 1,500 of our past speakers. And we're going to take the very best of these and offer them on our YouTube channel. We're starting to post them weekly. So what you want to do is go to our YouTube channel and to subscribe to it, and you'll get all kinds of information about what we're offering. It's so thrilling to be offering this legacy to you now. It feels really good. He's returning to us with his newest uh, book, which is Your Best Years Ever Reimagined, A Path to Aging Courageously. And, he first began sharing his pioneering work with the Inside Edge in 1986, if you can believe. That's how long we've been around. And he remembers being at the Beverly Hills Hotel one time when he was speaking on The Secrets Men Keep. And John Gray and Barbara DeAngelis were both in the audience, and both of them went on to write books about men and how they operate and so on. So he may have sparked something completely new in them. He's had a fabulous career, and it's just such a joy to have you back with us, Ken. So would
So
you
good to
lead
be with you.
into connecting with each other today and moving into silence here?
Somebody once told me that everything good starts with a deep breath.
Mm-hmm.
And, not a, oh, we're supposed to take a deep breath, but your own deep breath. However you do that, however that feels natural to you. And it's that moment that we just become more present, even more present than we've already been today, as we entered the day, as we found the computer and fed the dog or walked the dog or did whatever we needed to do to bring ourselves to this moment. So I invite you to kind of drop down into or up into that quiet place that you go to prepare your brain and your heart and your nervous system and your being for movement, some kind of movement inside of you, perhaps something that's already moving, something that's already awakening, something that it's time to learn. It's time to come to terms with. It's time to make peace with. That's what this moment is designed for. It's designed for you. That deep breath is you clearing the path forward, clearing the path inward, clearing the path to the highest and best expression of your life as you are living it. This morning's about our passage through time and how we do that, how we navigate, how we occasionally get lost and found, how we fall asleep and wake up emotionally, physically, spiritually. And it's an invitation to another level of wakefulness. That's my reason for teaching and writing and going into this space. It's nothing less than sacred. This is not an academic exercise. This is an exercise about ripening as a human being in each season of our lives. And we're going to be talking about the season, whether it's you in this season of your life, or whether it's your parents as they transit a season of their life as they're aging, as you experience their aging. about it all. So whatever you have come here for, and I've got the advanced class who rate themselves as 8 and above. So we're all teachers, and we're all going to have a chance to share the depth of what we are learning, of what we are awakening to. Maya Angelou talked about courage as the greatest virtue. Of all the virtues, she said it's embedded in all the other great virtues. And if we think back across the landscape of our lives, each new season, each change, each loss, each celebration involved summoning newfound courage. And my invitation to all of us is to summon from within ourselves and one another a newfound courage that allows us to live each day of the rest of our time in the fullest, most wonderful, joyful, peaceful manner. So let's start there. Diana, did you want to say something? You're muted.
Thank you. Yeah, I know you mentioned something about asking the younger version of ourselves, what would we say to ourselves in an encouraging voice, say to our older version?
Yeah.
I love that question. Can you
Yeah.
spend just a second on that before we start the
Yeah.
formal talk?
Most of us are time travelers. We remember the younger version of ourselves. And sometimes we imagine the even older version of ourselves, or we even imagine ourselves spiritually. What happens then? And so these parts of us we speak to these parts of ourselves. And the quality of those conversations is so important. And often the question is, what would the younger version of us say to the older version of us? You know, would we look into his or her eyes and say, oh my God, look at you. Look at what you've become. You've become such a beautiful expression of me. Look at the depth of wisdom. Look at all the miles you've traveled, some very hard miles, the joyful miles, the miles when you were lost, the miles of discovery. Would we be speaking in a voice of appreciation and gratitude and honoring? Or would we be speaking in a voice of criticism and admonition? Look at you. Look at you. What is that? What is all this? Your hair never used to be gray. You used to have a beard, but it was never gray. Oh my God, what happened to you? So the invitation today on the continuum from self-compassion to harsh self-criticism, the invitation, since we're all a work in progress and some things are different. We look in the mirror and there's one voice. We go to work, there's another voice. We're with certain people, there's another voice speaking. The invitation is to move the needle in the direction of self-compassion, of greater self-compassion, because at the end of this day, what I'm going to be sharing with you, the distilled essence of aging courageously, is upgrading our capacity and willingness for self-compassion.
Oh, beautiful. Well, it's really time to begin your real presentation. And I know you'll be talking about, or I hope you'll be talking about impermanence and packing our bags spiritually and leaving a legacy of love. And so go ahead, Ken, take it over.
Yep. Thank you. And I say thank you, not just for introducing me and for your quiet, elegant, gentle leadership over all these years. You know, I'm back here with you You're my inspiration, even though I'm falling in love with Robin and Rebecca. And I'm so glad I'm looking into the eyes of each of you. I'm so glad to have the opportunity. Some of us have even met at Unity of Tustin when I gave some programs there with John Welshons. But I thank you, Diana, for the leadership, the inspired leadership in this process. And I'm back to rejoin you in this new season of life and this new opportunity for ripening as human beings. The start, we all seem to think that aging is something that's happening to somebody else. Last week, a wonderful friend told me about, he came and asked his physician, and he told me about how he believes his wife is losing her hearing and she's becoming hard of hearing. And he says, I go into the kitchen, honey, what's for dinner? And nothing. And, and I try this. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to approach her. I don't want to insult her. I just don't know how to approach it. And his doctor said, look, here's what you do. You go in, she's making dinner. You go in and you say, honey, what's for dinner? If you get no response, you move closer. Sweetheart, what's for dinner? And if you still get no response, you go right up and you put your hand on her shoulder and you say, my love, what's for dinner tonight? So he says, all right, I'll go home and try it. And he goes home and he tries it. And sure enough, from way back here, honey, what's for dinner? Nothing. No response. He goes in closer. Sweetheart, what's for dinner? Still nothing. And then he goes up close and he says, my love, what is for dinner? Of course, she turns around and she says, for the third time, chicken. So we all think somebody else is aging. This is about us, and it's about our journey through time. And our journey through time is going through an interesting historic moment as well. And I welcome your questions and comments later, because we are in the middle of a centurion pandemic. We've all been told repeatedly we're one droplet away from being infected with COVID and dying. And we know that 80% of the people who have died are over 65. So many of us who are over 65 are going, oh my God, I can't go to Costco this week. It's going to kill me. I can't see my grandkids this week. That could kill me too. I can't spend time with my neighbors. I've got to isolate. Nobody told me I'd signed up for a course in being alone or being lonely or not having the resources that I'm used to that allow me to feel so alive as I get older. Nobody told me that I had signed up for that class. So we are all going through our process in a time of age. And let's go to I brought a couple of slides to share a little bit more about me. And let's go to the next slide. And today, as I've shared, is about, because we hear these terms, positive aging, healthy aging, successful, conscious, and courageous aging, which is the title of my book. And what it's about is clearing our hearts and minds, opting out of the cultural norms, the myths, the misinformation and prescriptions for getting older. In a youth worshiping culture, just as we are living in a grief illiterate culture, we learn and we internalize attitudes and beliefs and personalize them as we get older. And many of us are finding that isn't working. And if I've got a group of 8 to 10s in the room, you already know this. The second thing is opting in and reimagining our best possible futures. We have this incredible system called our imagination. Are we fully utilizing it to picture ourselves irreverent, happy, loving life, awakening, realizing the even better version of ourselves, the more connected version, the more at peace version of ourselves? And in order to do this, it's necessary we have in this emotional system a processor. It's not Dell's processor or Apple's processor, or, it's our processor, our emotional processing, how we process and feel about getting older. Where on the continuum are we from grief, fear, dread, anger, regret, resentment, and being in a state of unrest to, it sounds like my 8 to 10 group is more in the mode of excitement, peace, gratitude, joy, acceptance, faith, and so on. But processing these feelings, including our joyfulness, is such an important part of clearing the path forward, as is summoning the newfound courage, faith, clarity to meet the challenges that appear as we get older and to harvest the opportunities that come with them. And we'll talk about harvesting the opportunities, because as important as meeting those challenges and healing are awakening to the opportunities and knowing how to harvest them, the opportunities of turning an older age. Putting our houses in order, and we're not going to talk about legal and financial issues. We all know about those, and we're probably in the mode of having handled them. They're very important. But we're talking about putting our psychological, spiritual, and interpersonal houses in order and packing our bags. In my work with people who are facing end-of-life issues, who are encountering impermanence, maybe for the first time in a very personal way, in a way of sense of urgency, we talk about the exercise called packing your bags, and it's packing them spiritually so that you are in some way preparing yourself for the seasons to come, even if that means the end of this life as we know it. And living out the rest of our days joyfully and at peace by paying the good in our lives forward, by leaving a legacy of love, not chaos, but love. And we'll talk about those. And I also welcome your questions as we go. So let's go to the next slide. Courageous aging is what I just described, and we're going to be doing it inside edge style today. And let's go to the next one. As you begin to look at the menu, things, and set your intention, it's a shared responsibility as a presenter and as somebody who is listening and taking in information and processing it, is to set a relevant end goal. What could happen for me today? What could I deal with? What could I think about or open my heart to today that could improve the quality of this day and every day forward? And a few menu items are, hey, I could be more at peace about getting older. I could reimagine my best possible future and make a plan to live in it, put a critical path to that goal. I could process how I feel about myself at this age, so I could be that more self-compassionate person. And by the way, processing how you feel, all you have to do is say, ask somebody, look into their eyes and ask them, how old are you? And see how they react. What does that trigger when somebody says, how old are you? Embarrassment? Fear that you're going to be put in a box? Shame? Joy? Pride? Arrogance? What does it trigger? Next is calling forth the newfound courage. Could I call forth some greater courage? I really need to summon that courage to face into the things that I'm dealing with right now in my life. Or putting my house in order, packing my bags, as we said before, or learning more about how I can live out the rest of my days more joyfully and at peace by paying the good forward and leaving that legacy of love. So think about what your intention is. It might be on this list. It might be something you've already thought about. And let's go to the next slide. For me, and I want to share, I always like to go first, sticking my foot in the pool of looking at my own journey. Yes, this is me at age 16. My goodness, what would I say to that younger version of me? And let's go to the next slide. This is me at 46. Fast forward into what I call one of the happiest moments of my life. My daughter, Jenna, who's on the left, and my daughter, Steffi, who's on the right, okay? And let's fast forward. This was taken, by the way, by Bill Bellamy. My daughter Jenna was working at MTV. She had infiltrated MTV, and this was in Malibu at the beach house, MTV. And Bill Bellamy, the comedian and actor, took this picture. He said, "Oh, I've just got to capture this beautiful image of a father and his two daughters." Jenna was working for MTV at the time. And let's move to the next slide. Life turns on a dime. My beautiful daughter Jenna said, "Dad, I know the world is bigger than California, than San Diego, than this country. And I want to go see the world. There's a great program called Semester at Sea. And you live on a ship for a whole semester. I know it costs a lot of money. Dad, could I do it? Could we think about it and talk about it?" Well, my daughter left in late January 1996. On March 27th, 1996, my daughter died in a bus accident on her way to the Taj Mahal. The day before, she had called me and said, "Dad, I can't believe where I'm going tomorrow. I'm going to the Taj Mahal, the world's greatest symbol of eternal love. And I'm going to see the Taj Mahal. I'm just so excited. And when we wake up, we're going to go to the Ganges, and where people that babies go to be born and people go to die." Little did she know that her life would end on that day. And my life turned on a dime. Something in me died, but not all of me died. The part of me that was walking around with a huge hole in my heart, walking with a limp in my heart, with a future, standing in the ashes of Plan A, with the future I had imagined, completely decimated, my heart broken in a billion pieces. Let's go to the next slide. What is a fast forward? Because after Jenna died, I started the Jenna Druck Center. I started a nonprofit foundation to help other families who had lost a child and to carry on her leadership program for girls called Spirit of Leadership. And I did that for 20 years. And then one day I said, "You know what? I can hear what my daughters are, both of them are saying, both my angel daughter and my earth daughter. They're saying, 'Dad, get a life.' So what is a 65-year-old man to do? It's the big now what, whether you've gone through a tragedy or a loss or a changing season of life or have retired or are facing health challenges for the first time. Well, the first thing I did, I call the 6 honorings, and it's a code for how we go on after a loss. And if you're interested in that, I have it on my website. It's called the 6 honorings. And it's been used universally around the world as a guidepost for how we go on after suffering some of the worst possible losses in our lives. Not only the loss of loved ones, but the loss of parts of our own life and our future. I call those living losses. Second, do I become complacent and begin to wind down my life's work? Is this the wind down period? I'm 65. The world's telling me, go retire. Do I retire, or as my friend Ken Blanchard says, refire? I had honored my daughter's life and spirit, Jenna, and my daughter, Steffi. My earth daughter had found the man of her dreams, and I had found Lisette, my life partner. And I was, for the first time in my life, tired and lost. I had started another life, but I was tired and lost and uncertain. I could kick back, rest on my laurels. I had led a blessed life. I could wind down and, dare I say, even give up and go be with my angel daughter. Next slide. I made the decision to live forward and to ripen and to live out the rest of my life as an expression of my love, not of my despair. Transforming adversity into opportunity, resilience, is what I learned. It was the distilled essence of everything that I had learned to date. I had to choose. Would I allow myself to pass through this period of unknowingness, inquiry, and deep reflection? Would I deliberate with my family, with my men's group, which had been meeting for 30 years? Rather than lapsing into despair and getting older, grieving the loss of my younger self, I could summon the courage to reimagine my best possible future and live forward. I call that courageous living. And let's go to the next slide. Reimagining my best possible future. Here's what I did. I closed the Jenna Druck Center. I rendered it inactive. I started a new chapter of life. I started writing. I'd written a few books, but I really started writing passionately about resilience, transforming adversity, and the experience, what I was going through as I was getting older. As I looked at my watch and I said, "You're 65? Oh my God, when did that happen?" I decided I could make a difference in changing a culture that devalues people as they age. I developed a sense of purpose for what I could be doing. This is a world in which we spend $1 trillion a year on anti-aging projects, and where 120 million people will be over 65 by this year, where 10 people turn 65 every week in this country. And let's go to the next slide. So finding joy in a new season of life, here's me sitting in the chair that I'm sitting in right now, is the new chapter of life that I have written. And let's go to the next slide. Being with my now family, Lisette on the side, my daughter Stephanie and her husband Tony, and Lisette's son Eric. And here we are. Next slide. What is age? And I'm not going to go through this, I'm just going to go through it very quickly. Age conveys social status. We fear losing ground in society's eyes by saying how old we are when we were born. And we do everything in our power to appear younger and still worthy. We're so afraid sometimes of being hung out on the 99-cent rack. Age is one of the primary ways we judge and make attributions about each other. When we ask somebody, how old are you? Are we putting them in a box? Let's go to the next slide. Age too often excludes us. We worry about being replaced, taken out of play at a time in our lives where, like me, I've been bursting with creativity, enthusiasm, mastery, and integrated knowledge in our areas of expertise, and even developing new areas of expertise. My God, I've written 3 books in the last 6-7 years. And I would imagine some of the things you're going to share are going to tell me the same thing about the creativity, the newfound interests, hobbies, passions, insights, awakenings that you are having. We experience age and age angst and age dread about aging out. How do we process those feelings and fears? It's critical, it's essential to do that. And let's go to the next slide. The adversity in aging, as Maya Angelou said so beautifully, you may encounter many defeats, but you must not be defeated. In fact, it may be necessary to encounter the defeats so you can know who you are, what you can rise from, and how you can still come out of it, and how applicable that is to aging. Let's go to the next one. The most common question people ask related to aging is, what time is it in my life? When we look around and we try to think about what time is it in my life, we look at life seasons, winter, spring, summer, fall, and even the other one, running out of time.
Ken, I think that we really are out of time for questions. We really want to ask you about your new passions now, about a new book that you may have, and how people can learn more about you. And I think that Rebecca has a few slides with your website, etc. So tell us what's going on for you right now.
Well, first of all, what's going on for me in this moment is that I feel like we all just had a delicious appetizer together. And I'm, what I miss in this COVID world is sitting at Unity of Tustin or coming up to the Beverly Wilshire or wherever Inside Edge is, and being able to look into your eyes from a few feet away and give you a hug, and to be able to talk intimately about all the things that are challenging. So that's the first thing I want to express my gratitude for, the opportunity to meet you and to be with you, and your honesty. But I do feel like it's kind of the appetizer. So the second thing I will tell you is that anything you want to know, I've tried to compact everything about me, the books on tape, the audibles, all that you can find on Amazon, or you can find on my website, kendruck.com. You Courageous Aging book, which Alan Horn was kind enough from Disney to endorse. The Real Rules of Life, which I'm hoping you will love. And the last book, Raising an Aging Parent, which has my hand in the middle. That's my hand, with my daughter's hand holding my hand and my new grandson. I have twin grandsons, which are the greatest source of joy in my life. And that's my little grandson holding my pinky. And we took that picture. It happened spontaneously. And as soon as I saw it, I said, that's the cover of the new book. But Raising an Aging Parent is another book to deepen the relationship between us and our adult children and aging parents. But I'm doing programs. You can find out everything you need to know on my website, on my Dr. Ken Druck Facebook page, and in my newsletter. If you sign up for my newsletter, I send out articles. Right now, I'm writing. I really am working tenaciously. And you'll notice this is about wishful thinking about the election. I've organized a group in our part of the country to talk about what we can do after the election. I've written an article for The Hill, their op-ed called Voting for America. I'm really interested in what we do with this teachable moment and this dangerous moment in American history and how we all show up. So I've been writing a lot about that, but I continue to write about aging and about relationships and about really how we deepen and we become the best version of ourselves on this journey. And my newsletter has articles, postings. Here's the Vote for America. And you can also find copies of my books in the bookstore there as well. So
Fantastic.
I hope we can continue our relationships.
Wonderful. Well, we just want to thank you so very much for such a wonderful morning.